Hello, friends. As my canoe glides along the Tigris, the golden light of the Mesopotamian sun dances on the water. I spot a clay tablet half buried in the silt by the riverbank. I pick it up and marvel at the strange, wedge-shaped marks covering its surface. These markings, my friends, are cuneiform, the first ever writing system created right here in Mesopotamia. And let me tell you, this wasn't just about scribbling grocery lists. It was a revolution that transformed how humans recorded their world. Let's rewind a bit. Before writing, people relied on oral communication and memory. Great for storytelling, but terrible for keeping track of who owed you how many goats. So, around 3100 BCE, the Sumerians got creative. They began using pictographs, simple drawings that represented objects. A sheep? Draw a tiny sheep. A jug of beer? Sketch a wobbly jar. Clearly, they had their priorities right. But pictographs had a problem. They were impractical. You can only draw so many sheep before you start mixing up your flock. So, over time, the clever Mesopotamians streamlined their symbols. Instead of sketching an entire cow, they reduced it to a few basic shapes. The strokes became more abstract, and eventually, they morphed into cuneiform, a system of wedge-shaped marks pressed into soft clay tablets using a reed stylus. Now, here's the fun part. Cuneiform wasn't exactly easy to learn. It had hundreds of symbols, each representing syllables or entire words. Imagine trying to text with 600 emojis instead of 26 letters. Only a select few, scribes, had the patience and skill to master this intricate system. And being a scribe, it wasn't a walk in the park. You didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, I think I'll write a clay tablet today. No, you had to study for years, memorizing symbols and perfecting your wedge technique. Scribe school involved long hours of repetitive practice, and you were probably yelled at if your wedges were too wonky. Ancient education was tough, but once you mastered it, the world was your oyster. Cuneiform became the tool of administration, allowing rulers to govern more efficiently. Need to record how many bushels of barley the temple collected? Cuneiform. Want to draft a trade contract? Cuneiform. Want to leave a passive-aggressive letter to your neighbor about his noisy goats? You guessed it, cuneiform. And speaking of documents, Mesopotamians loved their bureaucracy. The clay tablets weren't just for recording taxes. They documented marriage contracts, business deals, and even complaints. In fact, one Mesopotamian tablet contains an angry customer's complaint about receiving the wrong grade of copper. Yes, folks, bad customer service reviews existed 4,000 years ago. But the magic of cuneiform didn't stop there. It also preserved literature, history, and science. Without it, we wouldn't have the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's first heroic legend. Mesopotamian scholars used cuneiform to record astronomical data, medical texts, and even dream interpretations. As I drift further down the river, I imagine scribes hunched over wooden tables, carefully etching symbols into clay. The tablets would be baked in the sun or in kilns, creating permanent records that could survive for millennia. Talk about durable paperwork. But what truly amazes me is how this ancient writing system laid the foundation for future alphabets. Over time, cuneiform influenced Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian scripts, eventually inspiring the alphabets used by the Phoenicians, Greeks, and even us today. And while we've traded clay tablets for smartphones, the basic idea is still the same: recording information, expressing ideas, and leaving behind stories. But cuneiform wasn't the only legacy of Sumer. It was also a time of kings and priests battling for power, with temple economies holding immense influence. In our next episode, we'll dive into the power struggles of Sumer, where rulers and priests clashed for supremacy in theocratic city-states. You won't want to miss it.